In a famous psychological study, a staggering 67% of men and 25% of women chose to voluntarily subject themselves to painful electric shocks rather than sit alone in a quiet room with nothing but their own thoughts. This wasn't a test of physical endurance, nor were the shocks mild tickles. Some participants chose to shock themselves multiple times, with one individual pressing the button an astonishing 190 times in just 15 minutes. It reveals a terrifying truth about the modern human condition. We are so deeply terrified of silence that we would literally choose physical pain over a moment of quiet reflection. We live in an era where the background hum of a podcast, the flicker of a television, or the endless scroll of a social media feed has become our psychological life support. But this constant need for input isn't just a harmless habit or a symptom of a short attention span. It is a defense mechanism. For thousands of years, silence was the default state of human existence, a natural canvas against which our ancestors tracked the seasons, listened for danger, and processed their lives. Today, true silence has been systematically hunted to near extinction, replaced by a relentless, engineered landscape of noise. When we try to step back into the quiet, we do not find peace. Instead, we are met with an overwhelming, suffocating anxiety. We have treated silence as an empty void to be filled, failing to realize that the emptiness we fear is actually a mirror. To understand why we can no longer tolerate the quiet, we have to look closely at what happens inside our minds the moment the world goes dark and the sound stops. When you turn off your phone, close your laptop, and let the room fall completely silent, you might expect your brain to rest. But neuroscience tells us that the exact opposite occurs. The moment external stimulation ceases, a massive, highly interconnected neural network in your brain lights up like a city skyline at dusk. This is known as the default mode network, or the DMN. For decades, scientists believed that when we stop focusing on external tasks, our brains simply go idle. But neuroimaging revealed that the DMN actually consumes an incredible amount of energy, turning its attention inward. It is the seat of your ego, the storyteller of your life, the engine of your self-narrative. The DMN is responsible for autobiographical memory, simulating the future, and analyzing your social relationships. It is the part of your brain that asks, "Who am I? What do people think of me? What mistakes did I make yesterday? And what disasters await me tomorrow?" When the external world is noisy, the default mode network is suppressed. The music in your headphones acts as a physical dam, holding back the floodwaters of your own consciousness. But when that noise stops, the dam bursts. Suddenly, you are flooded with every unresolved conversation, every lingering insecurity, and every existential dread you have successfully avoided all day. The silence doesn't create these thoughts. It merely removes the mask that was hiding them. We run from silence because we are running from the storyteller in our heads, a storyteller that, without external distraction, quickly turns into an interrogator. This flight from silence is not entirely our fault. We are living in a world that has been systematically redesigned to ensure we are never left alone with our minds. Historically, human attention was local and seasonal. There were vast stretches of the day, walking to a well, waiting for a fire to catch, lying in the dark before sleep, where silence was unavoidable. But in the late 20th and early 21st centuries, attention became the most valuable commodity on Earth. Tech conglomerates realized that an empty mind is a non-monetized mind. Every second you spend in silent reflection is a second you are not consuming, clicking, viewing, or buying. The modern attention economy is quite literally a war against human quiet, waged by algorithms designed to exploit our brain's evolutionary craving for novelty. We have been conditioned to receive a constant stream of dopamine hits. When we try to sit in silence, we experience a literal state of neurochemical withdrawal. The brain, accustomed to the high-velocity input of short-form videos and instant notifications, perceives the sudden drop in stimulation as a crisis. It interprets quiet not as peace, but as boredom, and boredom as a threat to survival. We reach for our phones not because we have something important to check, but because the discomfort of chemical deceleration is too much to bear. We have traded our capacity for deep, sustained contemplation for a lifetime of shallow, continuous partial attention. Long before neuroscience could map the default mode network, philosophers understood the profound terror of the quiet. In the 17th century, the French mathematician and philosopher Blaise Pascal wrote a line that has only grown more haunting with time. He observed that all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Pascal believed that we fill our lives with diversions, work, play, gossip, war, not because we genuinely care about these pursuits, but because they distract us from the fundamental precarity of our existence. We run toward noise because we are terrified of discovering how fragile we truly are when the music stops. In silence, we are forced to confront the ultimate questions. What is the meaning of my life? What happens when I die? Am I truly happy with the person I have become? Noise acts as a psychological anesthesia, numbing the pain of these existential questions. When we strip away the ambient chatter of the world, we are left with nothing but our raw existence. For many of us, that raw existence feels profoundly empty, because we have spent our entire lives building our identity on external validation, achievements, and social roles. Without the mirror of the world reflecting us back to ourselves, we look inward and find a stranger. While the psychological transition into silence can feel incredibly painful, the biological benefits of crossing that threshold are staggering. In 2013, a group of biologists was studying the effects of different sounds on the brains of mice. They used white noise, ambient sounds, and even baby mouse distress calls as variables. As a control group, they subjected some of the mice to 2 hours of complete silence every day. What they discovered shocked them. They expected silence to have a neutral effect, but instead, they found that 2 hours of silence daily led to the development of new functional cells in the hippocampus, the region of the brain critical for memory, learning, and emotion. Silence did not just give the brain a break, it actively regenerated it. When we deprive ourselves of silence, we are depriving our brains of its primary mechanism for self-repair. Constant noise, even low-level background noise like traffic or a humming refrigerator, keeps our bodies in a chronic low-grade state of fight or flight. It elevates our cortisol levels, increases our heart rate, and erodes our emotional resilience. Silence is the only environment in which the brain can truly synthesize what it has learned, consolidate memories, and regulate our nervous system. By running from the discomfort of the quiet, we are physically degrading the very organ we rely on to navigate the world. How do we return to a state where we can enjoy silence once again? It is not about throwing away our technology, moving to a remote cabin, or taking a vow of absolute quiet. It begins with changing our relationship with the discomfort of the transition. When you first sit in silence, your mind will scream. The default mode network will rage, throwing up anxieties, embarrassing memories, and urgent to-do lists. This is not a sign that you are doing it wrong. It is simply the dust clearing from a room that hasn't been swept in years. To find peace in the quiet, we must learn to treat our thoughts not as emergencies to be solved, but as clouds passing across the sky of our awareness. We must practice what psychologists call tolerating the gap, the uncomfortable space between wanting stimulation and receiving it. Start small. Walk to the grocery store without headphones. Drive your car with the radio turned off. Sit with your morning coffee for just 5 minutes before looking at your phone. Let the silence be heavy, let it be awkward, and let it be boring. Over time, the neurological withdrawal will pass. The default mode network will quiet down, and the brain will begin its natural process of restoration. If you can survive the initial discomfort of the quiet, you will discover a profound secret. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is not a cold, empty void, nor is it a vacuum that sucks the life out of the room. True silence is a presence. It is the background canvas upon which the entire symphony of your life is painted. Only when we stop screaming at the world can we finally hear what the world has been trying to tell us. In the quiet, you will begin to notice things you have missed for years. The rhythm of your own breath, the subtle shifting of light across a wall, the complexity of your own feelings, and the profound beauty of simply existing without needing to produce, consume, or perform. We can enjoy silence again, but only if we have the courage to stop running from ourselves. The next time you feel the urge to fill the quiet with noise, pause. Put down the phone. Turn off the screen. Breathe in the stillness, and listen to the only voice you have been ignoring your entire life, your own.